we're really in a defining moment for AI investing in our region. And through the Presight Shorooq AI Fund, which is backed by the G42 ecosystem, we've begun deploying into companies that are building real enterprise-grade AI infrastructure, not speculative applications, not chatbots, but actual agents that within their various sectors and industries can take actions. And so as an extension of that, we're targeting 25 to 30 high conviction AI and deep tech companies globally, primarily in the US where frontier innovation is happening, but also around the world with the strategic leverage of the GCC.
So I want to know what this initial portfolio tells us more broadly about the investment strategy as well. Let's talk about NodeShift, which saw $1 million at seed stage from you. Tell us about NodeShift and why that ticket size.
Yeah. So NodeShift is essentially part of a group of companies. The red thread here is that these are companies operating at the infrastructure layer of AI, where essentially intelligence meets workflow. So take NodeShift, for example. They are truly an air-gapped platform, allowing regulated industries and sovereign AI to function with trust and credibility and openness. That's the kind of company that, especially in the GCC, but increasingly around the world, where there is a bigger emphasis by governments and states to have sovereign data, sovereign AI, sovereign access that is protected and trusted, especially in highly regulated industries. This becomes very, very important. So we look at NodeShift, just like we look at all the companies that we've invested in, not just a UAE play or a US play, but really a global play. So what are we underwriting? We're underwriting data access for these companies, domain expertise, and distribution, not just the novelty of the model.
And then elsewhere, Candid and Crunched, these are two separate businesses, received $6 million each, much bigger ticket. Tell us about those businesses.
Candid is a uniquely global story in some respects that is origins in the GCC. Both founders have spent a lot of time in the UAE, specifically met studying engineering at one of the top universities in the US, and came together and went through the YC system in order to build a AI agent that is incredibly domain specific. And going back to my earlier point, Dan, is actually at the forefront of agentic AI, i.e. is part of doing actions throughout workflows, in this case, for EPCs and construction engineering. That's exactly the kind of company that we want to back and support. Global resonance, agentic, workflow embedded, and domain expert, right? And for our purposes, we're able to support them, even though they're in San Francisco, by opening up our market here domestically. Some of the most sophisticated spend and sophisticated thinking around infrastructure AI and regulated industries is happening here in the GCC. In fact, just this week in Congress in the US, there was compliments given to the way in which G42 and the GCC are building trusted AI. That means that companies, even in San Francisco, whether it's Candid and Crunched and others, want to be a part of that ecosystem, work with regulated industries here, work with businesses here. And in our case, we're able to facilitate that opening.
The other business, and this is the final one in the portfolio that we haven't mentioned, is Heavier. The allocation here undisclosed. Why is that? What is Heavier? And should we interpret this one as a more strategic or potentially larger investment? Was it plus $6 million here?
So Heavier is, I would argue, part of the vanguard of the early AI agentic companies. I've known the company for many years. It was rooted in New York, a company built for Wall Street, a company built for investors in order to help them make more meaning of data sets, both within and outside of their organizations. And it has grown leaps and bounds. If we talk about workflow automation and knowledge work, it's companies like Heavier that are at the forefront of helping enterprises completely shift the way they think about context, data, and information in their daily work. And so Heavier for us is, you could argue it's a strategic bet, but I would argue that it's also illustrative of the kind of companies that we can get access to in the US. And, just taking a step back here, Dan, in the era of desktop computers or in the era of B2B software, an early stage investor out of a growth market, especially our region here, would not have been able to compete for allocation and be named on the cap table of these companies. We're doing that today, and we're doing that today not only as Shorooq, but we're doing it as Shorooq, Presight, and the G42 ecosystem. And that, I think, is a signal not only to the relevance of this region as, I would argue, the third rail of AI globally after the US and China, but the pull that we have for value being added to these companies, Hebbia being one of them. So it's no coincidence that around about the time we invested, they also have opened their offices in London to make a much bigger attempt at EMEA and the Middle East and Europe. And again, that is the kind of global play that we want to support.